Hey, everybody. We know you have a lot of options, so very, very grateful for you giving us your time. And I know there's 35 to 40 minutes between us and drinks, so we'll make it count. I'm not going to say we'll go fast, but we'll make it count. So with me, so I'm Sav Khetan, VP of Product Marketing at Tealium. And with me, I have Narendra Pandya from WGU. Narendra, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm Narendra Pandya. I'm a distinguished data engineer with Western Governors University. We are an online competency-based, not-for-profit university.
So today we're going to talk about just how WGU has taken on the challenge of personalizing across their vast university and students. And the first thing is we're going to start with just a little bit about WGU, because the more I've been learning about WGU, the more I've been shocked at the scale. So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about WGU and how they got here?
Absolutely. So the numbers will talk for us, but I'll give you a little background. Western Governors University was founded in the year 1996 by 17 different governors from the western states of United States. You can call it one historical event when the leaders from both the side, from the Republican side, from the Democrat side, came together to come up with a new concept of like, okay, we want a university where we are not spending money on infrastructure, building big buildings and land and stuff, but we are focusing more on building the workforce for the future. And two of the prominent governors back then, Governor Levitt from Utah and Governor Roy from Colorado, they started this. And one of the things that Roy said back then is, we measure education wrongly. We measure it by time. And we also measure it by the way how it is hyped, or by the way people look at it. We want it should be based on performance. So that was the objective of setting a competency-based university back in the day. And our mission statement includes that we want to be the most student-centric university in the entire world, and basically to provide pathways for opportunities for our students to be successful. We focus mainly on the underserved community. We focus mainly on providing the availability of education for the first-time people who are coming for their learning and want to get something in their life to be done. So that's where we focus mainly on. And adult education is one of the things people have desires. They have, for various things that happen in life, they are not able to complete their degree. They come back. They want to complete this because this additional education would provide more pathways for opportunities, not for them, but for the entire family. So that's where WGU stands. I have these numbers from today, which shows you the magnitude. Total number of active students are 202,000 active students that we have as of now, and these are degree-seeking, bachelors and masters. We have 4 colleges, or 4 schools, what we call as the School of Technology, School of Education, we have School of Nursing, and then we also have a School of Business. So 4 schools. And the total number of all-time graduates is 435,000. That's one of the only university which has that many number of living graduates, I would call it, in the span of last 25 years.
So just to give an idea of the scale, we were checking today, and Ohio State University has active students right now, 65,000. And UCLA has about 40,000. Harvard has about 40,000. So 200,000 active students gives you an idea of just how big they are. And last year they graduated 50,000 students, which was a record. And most of these other universities are graduating about 12,000 students a year. So in terms of scale, this university truly sets the bar. And I think they're on pace to break another record this year.
Yeah, the number of graduates would definitely cross our 55,000. I've already seen 55,000, and we still have 1 month to go.
So why personalization? Like when you think of university, I don't think people think of personalization. Why is that so important?
So yeah, that's a great question, Sev. And first of all, now that you get the landscape of how big our ecosystem is, everything is digital. Every single footprint of our student is digital. So what we want to do with personalization is, are we reaching the right target? Affordability is one of our prime criteria. Are we making education affordable, and are we reaching to the right audience to help them to be successful? So with all this in mind, not everybody has the same learning skills and the same learning capabilities. So we want personalization to be as our goal. And with the data ecosystem that we have built so far, I think we are now in the right place to actually get this thing done. When we started first, we had these standard problems, siloed systems. We had delayed data as insights. And then we were trying to fit one size all. That was one other problem. I'll give you an example of a magnitude and why personalization is now more important, is drop rate. We measure on drop rate. We are a not-for-profit, so we don't want people to be like term after term paying fees and continuing, but we want them to be come in and quickly get out and get back to their lives with the additional credentials that they get. So drop rate was the measure that we had, and with the drop rate, I can give you a perspective. When we were 50,000 students, if we say we have a 2% drop rate, that 2% is somewhere in the like 200 students or 200 or 400 students. But now with 200,000, if I say we have a 2% drop rate, it is affecting 4,000 lives. That's a big number. So, which means that there is something wrong. And then there are some standard problems that we come across, like why do students drop? And we figure out that, okay, most of the 30% of the people who come in, they really don't know what degree they should pursue. Should they go for the MBA degree, or should they go for a bachelor degree, or what exactly does fit to their role? So how can we provide them with the right opportunity at the right time? And that is where personalization comes into play.
Yeah, about 30% students have no idea what they want to do when they show up. And when they take the wrong course, or when they're not able to find what they're looking for, they're not completing, and that's going against the mission of WGU. So, but before we get to personalization, I wanted to ask Narendra, when you started, what was the world like when you started? Can you walk us through this journey, or what brought you to Databricks?
Absolutely, and I can sum up with the one line. First of all, is when I started back in 2012 with WGU, we were an Excel shop. And I think everybody has a similarity of this journey, that everybody starts with an Excel. So the magnitude or the impact of that was we had 17 different Excel files. Today is the 10th. 10th is our census date. So on the 10th of the month, 17 different Excel files attached to an email and then sent to our president back then. That's the monthly report, which talks about how many active students, how many drops, what's the breakdown by courses and programs and everything. And there were like a team of 4 individuals whose job was to just go in and change those numbers in the Excel. Bigger problem, departments and subgroups, they had their own Excels. And you know how it goes. My Excel greatest, right? So that's how it started. And my first job when I got onboarded was, okay, can you automate this process? Can you make a process with which you click a button and you get a single PDF which has all these 17 different formats? And that's where we first started with building our enterprise data warehouse. But before we start, the first thing we asked is, okay, are we talking the same language? Do we understand what our metrics are? And so that's where we went by. So active student, when we went to the marketing team, they said that, oh, anyone who just gets enrolled to the WGU university is an active student. But when we went to the Department of Registrar, they said that, oh no, only the person who are actively pursuing, if they are on term break, they are not counted as active. Or if they have decided to take a break, they are not active. So all of this had to come together, have a same data language, so that everybody agrees on the metrics that we are tracking. That's where we started. And then 6 months down the line, we had our first report generated using a PDF. And you can see how the numbers were like growing over the period of time. So we had an enterprise data warehouse, very happy situation, single version of truth flowing through it. But then as the volume was growing, our ETL window was shrinking. Meaning we start at midnight, and we had to finish everything by 6 a.m. But because of the volume of the data, we were not able to finish at 6 a.m. And we tried everything. We tried to add more horsepower by adding more horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, all sorts of scaling we did, but it didn't help. So ultimately, we had to move for a different solution, and we had a lot of learnings. We were tied with a specific vendor. So we had that learning in mind, and when we were evaluating a new product, we said, okay, we want something which can help us to control compute, help us to control all our business logic, and also helps us to control our data where it gets stored. And with those three things in mind, we went and selected Databricks back in 2016. We are one of the early adapters of Databricks when it was called as Spark. So the Spark ecosystem is what we started with. And with Spark, the advantage was all our business logic and the code was in Python. All our data was residing in AWS S3 files. And then on top of it, the compute was something that we were getting help with Databricks. In an event, if we don't like Databricks, we had a very clear exit policy or exit plan that we will just step out. We'll take our Python code as is, we take our AWS files as is, and we will spin up our own Spark clusters in the cloud environment that we want, and we will continue to do what we are doing. So that was the objective of getting into Databricks. But time and again, Databricks has always helped us to certify our decision, because when they came up with Delta as a format, and we were like, are we getting back into the trap of proprietary stuff? But no, the next thing they do is they make everything as open source. So every time it was made open source, it certified our decision that, okay, no, we are going in the right direction. So that's where the journey, you can see we had a data lake built, and then eventually we went ahead and built a data lake house. And I'm showing you for the last 15 years, that's where we are standing right now. Is it the end of the journey? No, I would say this is just the beginning. Because now that we have matured to a level, this is where we get partnered with Tealium to get actionable, what do you call it, the domains and everything that we want to put into action for our students, the personalization aspect.
Yeah,
that's the interventions that we talk about. We also call them as hero moments, by the way. I'll talk about that in the subsequent slides.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was a really interesting insight for me, that this journey seemed like a marathon in itself. But then when we were talking last week, he's saying, oh, this is the beginning of the journey for where we go now, because once you have your single source of truth, what you can do with that really gets unlocked. And that's really where they're going next, right? Yeah. So we'll start talking now about how Tealium and Databricks are helping your personalization goals.
Right.
So can you describe a little bit of just what the audience is looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think part of this you are already familiar with is the Databricks ecosystem, the unified data platform that we agreed on. All our data sources from internal and external, we get a lot of data from external sources. We get student interaction data. When a student is going into a course, if I'm a student of, let's say, MBA, and I'm opening an organizational behavior book and I'm reading page number 5, we have all that level of tracking information that we get from our vendors. So all that external data that is coming from these sources, from vendors, and then we have a tons of interaction data within the system. Every student who starts with WGU gets assigned 2 types of mentors, 2 types of faculty members. One is the program mentor. The program mentor is like a homeroom teacher, I would call it, in simple terms, who's there from the beginning of the journey till the end of the journey. Throughout the journey, he's interacting, or he or she is interacting with the student, helping them, guiding them, and supporting them. And then there are course mentors, which are subject matter experts. So that's how the journey starts. So all of this interaction data comes into our Databricks ecosystem, which is our unified data platform. And then from there, we pass it on to Tealium for our upper funnel optimization. And we'll talk about some use cases where we are implementing Tealium with the upper funnel. And then, as I was talking about, we are here to make students successful. And what does success mean? Success means a couple of metrics: on-term progress, on-term completion. These are some of the commitments that we ask from the students. That, okay, are you going to spend this time? And are you going to be successful in this? You have to give 4 hours of your time every week. So that on-time completion and on-time progress, that's what we track. And if there is a deviation from that, we want to interject in the right time and the right moment to bring back. Everybody has an story, and I have personally my story that a small hint or a small nudge at the right time helps us bring us back to our track. So we'll talk about those use cases. That's what is becoming possible with this. I have tons of ideas which I want to implement. If I sit down and implement myself, I need a team. I need to redo right from the scratch, and we have already gone through that process in the past. So the turnaround time for any new project is about 3 to 6 months. But the same thing if you try to do with a Tealium type project, which understands CDP, which understands what is the outreach and what's the right timing for intervention, that entire projects can be done in weeks instead of waiting for months. So that's the ecosystem, a combination of data still resides into your Databricks environment. What Tealium does is it enriches it further. It uses it for actionable statistics and actionable stuff.
Yeah, you were saying that if the stuff you're doing in Tealium, if you had to do it yourself, it would be manual,
yes.
It would be very time consuming, and it wouldn't be intelligent, right? So what Tealium is adding to Databricks in this case is an intelligent enrichment engine, an intelligent orchestration or activation engine, and even in real-time response to digital behaviors, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, one of the things you had mentioned to me was about student centricity,
yes.
because your mission is to help students improve lives through higher learning.
Correct.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the student centricity part?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our president, Scott Pulsifer, he always quotes that we want to be the most student-centric university in the entire world. And then just to tag along with that, I said we can be student-centric if our approach is data-centric. We have to treat data to be as our products, not like tool, not like okay, we have data-driven decision-making available, but data-driven is focusing on tools and technologies. We want to be tool-agnostic, and we want to make data to be as our own products. And that's where the real value comes into play, that tools and technologies will come and go. You will have, in my journey, I've seen so many tools came and went. For performance assessment, back in the day, we used TaskStream. Then we eventually figured out that, okay, TaskStream is not a good solution. We built our own homegrown solution for that, which was called as SAM. And then eventually we also built Emma. So these tools and technologies are changing, consistently changing. I built an object on top of it, which using the medallion architecture, which is called as our RST. We call our goal table as RST, result set tables. So the assessment table for RST is still solid, because by the time we first built our RST, we had hundreds of reports depending on it. The plugging was changed. We changed the source from using TaskStream to use Emma, to use SAM. But the top layer was intact. It was still serving thousands of dashboards and reports and analytical layer. So the approach of being data-centric, the approach of treating your data as product is what has helped us to build the entire ecosystem without disturbing the foundation layers.
I love it. So you're talking about the technology part, but then in the organization, you've been pushing data literacy. Yes. You've been pushing more alignment on all the data language that you were talking about earlier. Right. You had to do both parts to get them here, right?
Yes, it's a shared responsibility. We talked about that.
It is absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, so just to help you guys understand what the journey looks like, we'll talk about some use cases, right? Yes. So we'll do the simple, skilled, sophisticated, that alliteration, by the way, from WGU, which I've never used before, I love it. So we'll start with the simple, most basic one.
Yeah, so the simple and the most basic one is, always we keep in mind that we are a not-for-profit. That's our prime thing, that, okay, we are a not-for-profit, and every single student dollar we spend are sacred for us. How efficiently can we use our student dollars? And then one thing we figured out, that every time somebody types wgu.edu, which is an employee, which is an existing student, or for the matter of fact, anyone, when they type that, they get the ad as first item and they click on it. That's a waste of student dollars, because we have to pay for it, right? So we needed suppression for our existing student, which was by that time 100,000. And we also needed suppression for prospects, because we had prospects, millions of prospects, students who have visited. So they have already gone through that branding exercises.
And the staff.
And the staff, yeah. and the employee, because they are clicking every single day in and day out, they are talking about wg.edu. So how could we suppress that? So we did a first attempt of doing it by ourselves. And how we did that was, okay, we could export the data file, but again, because of the way that process worked, we could only build a data feed for every 6 months, and then eventually we tried to make it every month. So that data feed was built for a month, and then we fed it into the system for our front-end campaigning tools. They can do the suppression. So that's what we started with. But then we figured out that people change their laptop, people change their mobile phone. That means we are losing track of who this individual is. So there was no profiling. And that's where the very first thing which came to our mind is, we need a sophisticated tool which understands this domain and can help us to implement this. And that's where Tealium comes into play. And we started feeding this data on a regular cadence to Tealium. And Tealium would efficiently suppress all these advertisements for our existing students and staff. And that itself gave us a big amount of saving, which was justifiable for the cost of investment with Tealium.
Yeah, it's a real-time profiling engine. So, and we have deterministic stitching. So we connect all the different IDs that we can track for you. And then using that alone, the savings from that one use case paid for the Tealium use case. And they hadn't even started down the rest of the journey. So that was a pretty great beginning, right?
Yes.
So then where did you guys go next? Let's talk about the next one.
So on the second use case that I can talk about is branding is an extremely important thing for us and in the higher education domain. And remember, we are competing with highly sophisticated, a lot of money throwing universities. So, but our target audience is the right person at the right time. Affordability is one of our key. So are we reaching to these students? Are we reaching to these prospects? So what we do is, the second step in the journey in the upper funnel is there are visitors who come into our system. Visitors are just browsing, checking, okay. And then they start becoming a little more serious. They start clicking on specific schools, specific colleges, business college, or technology college. So they are trying to narrow down their scope. And as we said, 30% of them don't know what they're trying to do here. So that's the second level. Now, by the time they are digging into these things, we don't need to give branding advertisement to them again. We want to narrow down our scope to focus on what their needs are. And that is the second layer. And from here on, we want them to be successful. So we further narrow down and say that, okay, here are the possible certifications that you are important, because we also have a WGU Academy. Before you go for a master's, before you go for a bachelor's, you know you need to be prepared for it. And that preparation can be done by going to an academy. And we've seen that this kind of redirection for prospect students, because these are first time and they have no one to guide them in their family, because nobody in their family has ever graduated. So they are first time, low income people. So if they get a proper start of their career or of their growth in education, it can take them a long way. So we divert them to academy. Academy supports them over there, and then they come back and their success rate effectively increases by 45%. A person who directly starts with a degree and then completing it or failing it, whereas coming from academy, well prepared for the run and then completing it. So that's how the difference we have seen, that how we redirect our crowd is also extremely important. And then there are opportunities, because these are like financially challenging situations for the getting into an education thing. So we also redirect them to right scholarship. So the second use case, that is, how can we optimize the messaging based on their journey? Do they need any help with scholarship? Do they need any help with financing? Or what is their end goal at the end of the day? Are they just looking for a new advancement in their education side, or they want more detailing to be done?
Yeah, the second use case, what I loved about it was almost like a two-part use case. On the one end, you were able to suppress for people who've already come into the funnel, so you can save your expensive top funnel dollars. But then for the second part, anybody who, based on their digital behavior, you were guiding them correctly, recommending them well, and driving the conversion. And we'll look at that. But then, now you guys are talking a lot about the Student 360, and that's really the main future that you're looking at. So can you talk a little bit about what Student 360 is?
Absolutely.
And I think I'll go to this slide.
Yeah, so absolutely. So you saw the number, 200,000. So each and every faculty member has more than 100 students easily assigned to them, right? And then there are different profiles of these students. So one of the basic AI thing that we tried in the initial phase was RYG. We call this as RYG, red, yellow, green model. Meaning, we have every single footprint of the students that we are digitally collecting. How can we help them to be successful? And our key metrics that we track as a progress metrics is on-time progress and on-time completion. At the beginning of the term, the student will decide that, okay, in this term for 6 months, I'm going to complete 12 CUs. So what we try to do is we track their interaction, different types of interaction. That interaction could be connecting to their portal, my.wgu.edu, or talking to a mentor, or making a phone call, sending an email, or setting up time with the course mentor for learning more about a subject. All these interactions that we track. So our system processes all these interactions, and if there is a no activity for 15 days, we start putting these trackers into place. Okay. First thing is, the green dot indicates that this student knows what they are doing, and many of us, we know what we are doing. So sometimes they simply say that, don't bother me, I know what I'm doing, I'll cruise through, and there are these are the ones who will finish their degree in 6 months or 1 year. So just imagine, somebody comes into an MBA program, and we have a flat student fees. We haven't increased our student fees for last 10 years, I would say. And just to give you a number, $6,000 is what you pay. There would be some change up and down, but $6,000 you pay, and you pay for the term. And it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? Effectively, in $6,000, show your competency. That's exactly what you've been doing in your work life, so why don't you just cruise through it? So there are these green dots are students who know what they are doing, and they will finish their degrees in 1 term, which is 6 months. So effectively, you're doing an MBA in 6 months with showing your competency and with $6,000 and no student debt and stuff.
How many universities can we name that have not raised prices in 10 years, right? Like, that's mind-blowing.
Yes, absolutely. And so the greens are these. Then comes the one that you may want to interact with is the yellow. These are sensitive. They might trend to green. They might also trend to red. So these are the ones that you want to keep tracking, and a small nudge. And that small nudge could be just sending a push notification on the mobile app saying that, okay, looks like you haven't logged in last 10 days. If you want to complete your course in next 5 days, you have to start working towards it. So those are the small nudges, and we've seen people understand, oh yeah, I need to get back to it. And life happens, so they have full-time job, full-time family, and full-time, they're trying to study also. So all of this happens. So this is where we do simple text messages, emails, and if this is starting to trend towards red, then the calls comes into play. And then the most important, when a faculty member logs in every morning, they have a list of all the reds that they need to reach out for that day. And their first task of the day is to ping, to have an interjection with them or have a communication with them. And you won't believe how things happen for people. So I can tell you a few examples. One example, which is like, okay, a faculty member calls to a student and says, looks like you haven't logged in last 15 days. And then the student says, oh yeah, my laptop broke and I'm unable to log in, so I'm unable to study. No problem, we will send you a loaner laptop for this term, why you can continue your study. So there are these small things which stops people from finishing what they are supposed to do. There are people who are challenged with paying their internet bills. So they will reach out, and then we have our own advancement team which supports these kind of cases, and they'll say, oh, sorry, I have this problem and I'm not able to pay my internet bill. So WG will support that, okay, for this particular term, we'll help you with this. You have to fill up these forms and we'll get you internet connected so that you can continue your study. So these red ones, if you get them to the right intervention at the right time, you can put them to the right path and to the completion path. And for each of the stages of this journey, we have interventions and we call them as hero moments. And these hero moments are actionable stuff. We have the data. Right? We were talking about that. We have all this data. Now we need a a system that understands the customers, the CDB platform that understands the customer and can quickly take action for us. So actionables is what we want to go with.
Yeah, we are enriching the profile, the real-time profile with this status, and then if based on the rules that they're setting up, then it's triggering the intervention at the right moment and at the right time, and making sure that the student can get back on path. You know, all the examples, you even had an example that if someone's not able to pay their fees, then you guys will let them finish the course, and then they can only have to pay when they get a job afterwards, not even after they finish the course. So very much committed to their mission of improving quality of life with higher learning. I think it's amazing to see just how much they've been able to do with historical data in Databricks, and then getting real-time action using tools like Tealium. I think I love the combination. Yes. So looking at some results, these are results we got from today. We were actually looking through his dashboards today to find out which results we should pick. So can you talk about some of these?
Yeah, absolutely. So drop rate has always been a concern for all of us. Like for the senior leadership, every single time we have meeting, the weekly meetings and the monthly meetings, the board meetings, everyone was concerned about this drop rate. The drop rate of 2.6, which effectively counts to over 5,000 students, it's a big number. 5,000 lives. We failed. We failed in our mission if we are not able to help these 5,000 students in some way. So where can we start? And then we started digging into the drop reasons. There are a lot of personal reasons, there are a lot of financial reasons, there are a lot of natural calamities and other reasons also that come into play. But then there was one big reason we also figured out, that a lot of people don't know, they will start a degree, they will do 1 or 2 courses, and then they realize, you know what, this is not my cup of tea, I'm in a wrong program. I need to switch from this program to the other one. And so that bad choice in the initial phase, because there was nobody to guide them, because these are first-time students, so nobody is there to guide them. So we thought that, okay, we need to start from that upper funnel, and that's where the reduction in drop rate that you see, because of targeting and customizing and personalizing the experience for the students or the leads or the prospects when they become leads before that, that itself has helped us 15%, and which effectively means now we are proactively trying to guide them to the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. You are intervening so early that you're getting them on the right path right from the beginning, and that I think that's similar to the application rate, where you're targeting them based on their behavior with the right message, so they're completing the application faster. And the ad suppression we talked about was the simple use case. Correct. I'm just rushing because we're getting low on time. And so let's go actually to your lessons, right? So just to recap, what Narendra and WGU's experience, what are you recommending to our listeners today?
Yeah, and I think these are very simple data points, but for each one of them, we have a program that we run through. I would recommend asking everybody to work on the single version of truth, meaning the only thing, if I would sum up my entire experience of 28 years that I've been in the data industry, is I don't want to be in the business where, oh, this report in Power BI is showing this number and Tableau is showing this other number. No. They are all coming from the same source, so they should match. No matter what you do, roll up and roll down, these numbers should add up. And that's what means by the single version of truth. Asking your senior leadership to push down to have same vocabulary to be used across the board, same metric type, same formulas to be used, no matter how you present it. You can present it in 10 different ways: pie charts, bar graphs, numbers, they should all match. Data literacy and governance as a shared responsibility. So when we are working as a team. Data literacy is something that we push right from day one when somebody joins WGU. We want them to be vigilant. We want them to be well trained and well educated in what data is available in the data ecosystem. And then we go through our training models. We do data nuggets. That's one of the segments that we run on, and then we have Tech Thursdays, and then for my gold tables, what I also did was I also did Know Your Data series. So a 30 minutes capsule, which just explains what this table does. This table has 200 columns. 20 of these columns are base metrics, 40 of them are derived metrics, and this is how you write simple queries on it. 30 minutes you get, so that's data literacy, how we can let people know about what data they are using.
He also invites his vendors to come and do technology days so that everybody can learn from all the vendors, which is very forward-looking, actually.
Absolutely. Now, we have 300 plus Databricks users. Not everybody can come to this summit. So what we do is, okay, we say, Databricks, why don't you come to our home, and why don't you talk about higher education, because the domain that we are interested in is this, and this is our strategic roadmap. Can you align with this? Can you help us align with your topics to this? So that's what our technology day does. And so most importantly, in this all examples, I've been talking about gold tables, the medallion architecture. So treating your data as a product is extremely important so that everybody understands the value of it and the implementation of it, and then being tool agnostic. That's something that I have learned over the period, that yes, you can't get tied to one tool. You want to be flexible enough, because data being a product can be presented in any way you want.
Yeah, and then when we were talking about what to not do, we both agreed on the treating AI like a tool, but treating it like a teammate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Treating it as a new colleague that you have, treating them as someone who will amplify your performance and would help you to do much better than what you've been doing, so that you can be freed from the regular stuff and do more valuable or more enhancements towards your work.
Yeah, even if you don't think of it as a tool or a teammate, but if you interact with it like somebody who's working with you by giving it feedback and making requests, the output jumps measurably, immediately, actually. And I'm sure you guys are all trying that out now. Let's keep going on the...
Yeah. So the other thing which I've also seen with regards to AI is every single tool has their own AI feature and capability. Databricks has one, and then the other tool, Salesforce has one. So we need now, there's a need for, we don't want to lock down to that vendor-specific AI, because eventually we want to have an AI which is spanning across and knows the entire journey across the Salesforce, the Adobes, the assessment systems, all different types of system it should be scrolling through and providing us a full overview of it. So that's where lockdown is a critical aspect on a vendor AI that I would say we should avoid. And be flexible, be open, don't get tied up to stuff, and that's basically has always helped us. Back in the day when 2016, when we bought Databricks, Spark was the only thing. There was no capability for ACID transaction. That was one of the biggest things, because we were building a data lake, and Databricks didn't even had connectivity to reporting tools and BI tools. That was also something which we waited for. And so I think the experimentation, one of the key things which I would like to quote from our leadership, which our president always keeps saying, is fail forward, fail fast. So with that mindset, being flexible and moving forward, that's what AI would also have for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Narendra. Thank you to everybody. If you guys have any questions, we will be happy to take questions. But thank you for sharing so many learnings from such a long journey that you guys have had. And I love that you're saying you're just starting out on the next phase. So very exciting. Maybe we'll come back next year and talk about Student 360 even more.
Yes, absolutely. And I've been interacting with Sam for last a month or so. And then I have tons of use cases that I want to start implementing.
I love it. Okay, I don't know if anybody has questions or anything. Yeah?
Yes.
Wait.